I've been working on a bunch of projects for the last 10 months or so, as per usual, but this time I've actually completed some things. In that amount of time, I've released 4 plugins, which is 4 more than I ever thought I would actually make. Over time, I have learned a lot from working on different projects, and that has helped me become better at programming. Since my development techniques have become more refined since I first published a plugin back in November 2019, I decided I would go back and update all of my plugins with my current techniques in mind. Instead of making an update video on each one of these plugins and taking 4 times as much time as my current upload schedule, I realized it would be better to stick to one video. Plus, some of the plugins that I updated were really minor changes, and it would be one really long video and several 5-second videos if I made them separately. This will probably be a long video that discusses the specific details about scripting, so I'll leave timestamps in the description if you want to know about something specifically. These update discussions are in the order of plugin releases, not in the order of the updates. Without further ado, I'll discuss the various changes that have been made to each plugin. My first released plugin, WorkLight, was made in the span of about 2 days, and my UI skills back then were limited because I didn't know of really useful plugins such as Roundify to add rounded corners to UI objects. Looking back at the UI of my first plugin that I haven't updated since the day after it was published, is pretty basic. The first thing I did to improve it was swap out the text boxes for some round ones. Then I changed the text alignment of the setting titles and made the light colors into circles. The original versions of my plugin suffered a bunch in light mode due to everything being plain and of course light, so adding drop shadows gave it more detail to stand out. Unfortunately, the code that formed the interior of my plugin was also dated. I used this massively complicated way to store data in projects for the last 1 to 2 years, and I finally discovered a better way to store data that would be much more modular. After removing and updating that code, I ended up with a more efficient storage module. Also, I fixed the issue where the light object wouldn't be removed if the player closed the place. Usually, turning on the light would trigger Roblox's place change system, which would ask if you wanted to save your place, even if all you did was that action. This was quite annoying for me and was probably annoying for people who downloaded my plugin. Turns out all I needed to do was to turn the light object's archive property to off after it was cloned. I knew that the archive property was for whether objects should be saved after saving game instances, but I didn't realize I could use it in this way. So now, a light object should be removed after everyone connected to that place leaves. After I added this fix, I tested out the fix by disconnecting and reconnecting, and it worked. But I kept experiencing a freeze for a few seconds. I figured this was due to one of my scripts not liking the new changes, so I went in and I optimized the camera light movement script. Originally, this script would check every 0.5 seconds to see if the player had turned on the light or not. If the light was on, it would go into a while true loop that would run every 30 milliseconds to update the light position to be the same as the camera's. It would check the plugin storage to see if the status had changed as well during this loop in order to break out of the loop. In hindsight, I realized this is not the best way to do that, but at that point, I didn't know that you could disconnect an event connection, so I didn't use run service. I did have a variable for run service in the original script that I forgot to take out, so hey, 1 point for effort. After redoing that script, I made it into a module script that is triggered when the light button is toggled. When the light is toggled, it will call a function that will update the camera movement inside of a run service event connection. This will tie the camera movement to the frame rate so that it moves smoother than previously. It disconnects when another function is called by the main script after the light is turned off. This way, I don't have to check the plugin storage at every interval, since it will just disconnect the run service function after it is done. I did some other optimization to the rest of the plugin scripts, but there's a bunch left that will have to wait for a later date. After doing all this optimization, the freezing problem still persisted. I had a sudden realization that I had recently installed a plugin to do a task I wanted, so I decided to turn it off to see if that could be the problem. It was. I had spent about 10 to 15 minutes optimizing my plugin when it wasn't even my plugin that was causing the freezes. On the right side, the plugin is now more optimized than it was before. I also fixed a bug where if someone inputted an out-of-range value, it wouldn't correct the value in the text box. The text box responsiveness works pretty well now. I'll probably end up changing the text boxes to a slider like in my Beveler plugin, but that will have to be sometime in the future. Phew, that was a lot of information. But that is warranted considering how much my techniques have changed over time. My other plugins were much easier to change. I didn't really do much of the updating as this one wasn't as bad, but I updated the rounded corners of buttons and text boxes with better borders and drop shadows. I also made the checkboxes sharper by changing the border color. As with the WorkLight plugin, I redid the plugin storage to be more optimized. This took up the bulk of the optimization work. A change that I added a while ago but I haven't had a chance to talk about is how the plugin handles part compatibility. Originally, it would just show a blank state section that would give instructions on how to find a compatible part, but it wouldn't tell the person why the specific part selected wasn't compatible. After some feedback about part compatibility from others, I realized that I should add a compatibility section to tell the user what the plugin sees to make it easier to troubleshoot why a specific part wasn't working. This way I can design a more user-friendly system that reveals its intentions to people more clearly. On this one, I just fixed the text boxes and I was pretty much done besides slight modifications to the code. This one was pretty much the same as the last one since I just released this one a couple weeks ago. As with all of the other plugins, I added a top bar to the plugin to help reduce white space and improve visual quality. If you made it this far, either by watching the entire video or just a small portion, thank you. I've received a lot of feedback and responses regarding my plugins and have improved a lot from the comments. As always, suggestions and feedback, whether critical or not, is welcome in the comment section and I'll see you all in the next video.